jump into our program. Carillion Tower Advisors has been a huge help to the symposium, and it's all because of Patrice Henning and Will Taylor. Patrice is a member of the Rotary Club of Evergreen and an active member of the Symposium Planning Committee. Will is a colleague at Carillion, and they will both introduce our first plenary speaker, Dr. Lulu Kaaya. Patrice and Will, thank you for joining us today, and we'll hand the mic over to you.
Thank you. Can you all hear me? Very good. Well, good morning all here in Denver and Colorado and across the world. My name is Will Taylor. I'm Regional Vice President with Carillion Tower Advisors. Carillion is an asset management firm that builds investment portfolios for individual clients and institutions. I'm accompanied by Patrice Henning, who is member of Rotary Evergreen and Senior Vice President of Investments at Raymond James. Patrice and Carillion work together in helping, sorry about that, in helping her clients meet their financial goals. We are both very happy to be here today in support of WASH. Carillion has been at the forefront of the growing conversation around environmental, social, and governance issues in the area of asset management. As advocates for our clients, we look to take an active investor role in companies who are walking the talk in the area of ESG. As active, what I mean by that is we look to employ the power of the proxy votes to engage companies to take on their responsibilities, specifically in the area of ESG. At this time, I'll turn the time over to Patrice before we introduce Dr. Kaaya.
Thank you, Will, and also welcome to everyone here in Denver, and as Will mentioned, across the world. It's an exciting day for WASH. Will and I work closely, as he said, with clients that we represent, but Will and Cindy, his lovely wife, also sponsor a scholarship and support for a little guy very far from here named Wheatcliff. Wheatcliff is one of about 120 to 170 children that utilize the Center of Love located in Kibera, the largest slum in Kenya, where approximately 1 million people live. In 2017, I partnered with two of my alumni brothers from St. Mary's University of Minnesota in founding the Center of Love. Please help me recognize Anthony Halula, founder of Ingao Foundation, that sat right here with you in 2017 as you welcomed him from Kenya to the United States. And he wanted me to say to Peter and to Steve, congratulations on your award today. Also, I'd like to recognize my alumni brother, Jeremiah Mumo, founder of Friends of Love Kibera. Everything makes sense in Kibera through the Center of Love for these children and 500 families we represent because of my alumni brothers working tirelessly on the ground. Since 2017, we have brought clean water, purified water to our community members. To see a child drink clean, purified water for the first time is just priceless. I want to thank the Evergreen Rotary for recognizing us, for assisting us with a $5,000 anonymous WASH grant that allowed that to happen. And I'm excited to hear what the 5 members of our Evergreen team that are on the ground in Tanzania and in Kenya on October 27th think about that $5,000 WASH investment. The Center of Love is a place where children not only can drink clean water, but also be nourished through their minds, hearts, and souls, a place where they can play safely, learn, and develop into fine adults. You're welcome to visit, as we say in Kenya, Karibu, the Center of Love, anytime you're there. And I want to turn it back over to Will to introduce Dr. Kaaya.
Thank you, Patrice. It is with pleasure that we have the honor of introducing such a great mind, educator, and activist in the environment we all share. Dr. Lulu Kaaya, in addition to being a mother of 4, which I'm sure is her greatest treasure, is the African Woman in Science Program Advisor for ACARA, the African Center for Aquatic Research and Education. Here, Dr. Kaaya guides the program's development and growth by building viable networks for early career African women scientists. Dr. Kaaya is also senior lecturer in freshwater ecology in the School of Aquatic Sciences and Fishery Technologies at the University of Dar es Salaam. In addition to Dr. Kaaya's role as a lecturer, Dr. Kaaya is Director of Internalization, Convocation, and Advancement at the University of Dar es Salaam. Since 2005, Dr. Kaaya has been doing research in Tanzania, focusing on the functions of freshwater ecosystems and the management of water resources. Please join us in welcoming Dr. Kaaya.
Hello, everybody. Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for the introduction. I'm very pleased to be here. And before I start my presentation, can I share my screen? Whoever, can you allow me to share my screen?
You should be able to share. Go ahead.
Yeah. Mhm. Okay, thank you very much again. As I've been introduced, my name is Lulu Kaaya. Some also prefer just to call me Tunu Kaaya. And I am from the University of Dar es Salaam, where I work as a freshwater ecologist, doing research, but also lecturing undergraduate and postgraduate students. But I would like first to greet all the participants, the fellow speakers, sponsors, exhibitors, past and present district governors who are here, past and present presidents who are here, and fellow Rotarians. Kindly receive my greetings from Tanzania. I am humbled and pleased to speak to all of us in this 10th annual WASH Symposium, which is my first to participate, but I promise I think I will not stop participating again. And I would also like to thank the organizer, the Rotary District 5450, WASH Local Action Group, the hosting clubs of Evergreen and eWASH for inviting me to be one of the speakers for this remarkable and important symposium. Special thanks goes to Heidi, who hunted me down and made sure I'm available to be here today. And I thank you because it has also stimulated my thinking and involvement in terms of WASH. I am passionate about the environment, and for the past 15 years of my career, I've been involved in educating, researching, and creating solutions for the environment, and particularly the freshwater environment. I am also a Rotarian from the Rotary Club of Dar es Salaam, Mlimani, District 9211. I joined Rotary in 2016, and since then, environment-based projects have been my priority angle of engagement. I'm also a past president for my club. Now, if I go into the topic that I was asked to speak out about, I will move my ideas between WASH, environment, and Rotary's engagement, and spin out ideas for what we can do together for the environment. As we are all aware of the 7 focus areas of Rotary, and that we found most of our projects and programs, they fall under these topics. Some of the topics become popular in different areas of within the Rotary world, and others become important in different areas of the Rotary world. But the special thing I liked about WASH, as I was also reading to prepare myself for this, is this concept of the blue thread, that actually WASH cuts across all the focus areas, and that helps us to plan and develop programs that can enhance sustainability in terms of WASH. As we are going to see the symposium unfold, I think most of the topics is WASH and another area of focus. But if we look at these 7 areas of focus, they are all interrelated. And in their togetherness, they represent and influence a rather growing sectors worldwide, that you cannot speak of one aspect and not leave the other. So it is important also when we have symposiums like this and we look at them in their totality to identify how we can have sort of multidisciplinary projects that we can implement and solve multiple problems within our communities. The global issues of water, sanitation, and hygiene are basic necessities for a healthy environment and a productive life. And this is not only for the human beings, but also for all other living organisms that occur in this planet. WASH is to a greater extent influenced by the environment. When we speak of water, when we speak of sanitation, when we speak of hygiene, we cannot stop thinking or related to any form of environment at which communities do exist. For example, water itself is a natural resource, which is part itself an environment. Sanitation is highly water dependent. We cannot talk of sanitation without access, enough access to water. But also we cannot talk of hygiene without enough access of water. And just when we talk of sufficient or enough access of water, it resonates different between people in different communities. But there are areas where access to water just to wash hands is a privilege. So we cannot speak of WASH in its totality without considering the environment. And water is a natural resource, as I've said, but also which is dependent on the environment at which it occurs. Water resources depends on the catchments. If we clear the forest, we don't have the catchments, we don't have water. If we pollute the soil, we have water, but water of unacceptable quality. With changes in climate, affects rainfall, affects sources of water, we don't have water. So actually, WASH is highly dependent on water, which is highly dependent on the environment. So in my thinking, if we can fix some of the environment challenges to a larger extent, we can fix most of the WASH challenges. But based on my background, which is purely an environmentalist and specifically freshwater, my talk today will focus more on how us as Rotarians can tackle issues of environment, how we can prioritize it, and then it will indirectly ripple over to other issues, including the WASH challenges within our communities. So when we talk about environment, it's not a new subject in Rotary, as it's also one of the focus areas. But also, Rotary has done quite a number of projects in relation to the environment. The question may be, if we put a weight balance between all the focuses, where will the environment stand in terms of us as Rotarians, the way we do engage? Rotary is committed to support activities that can strengthen conservation and protection of natural resources, which in this aspect, for the case of WASH, water should be inclusive. It is committed to advance ecological sustainability of the environment and its resources, but most importantly, to foster harmony between communities and the environment. Sometimes I feel us as humans, we are too harsh to the environment, because we think the environment is just there to give us, and we are just there to exploit from it. And in that manner, we influence and we influence negatively the balance between the services that the environment is giving us and taking care of the environment itself. But not only that, Rotary empower communities, empower us as Rotarians and communities to access a number of resources that can help us implement projects and programs that are environment related. But most important, it empowers communities to embrace local solutions. Within Rotary, I've learned that you need to let communities, and when you let communities identify their own challenges and propose their own solutions, and you work with their proposal to advance using innovation and so forth, it becomes more useful than to go to a community with your bag of solution and hoping that people will embrace and move along with it. So Rotary has taken also a room to empower communities to be able to undertake projects and also develop solutions and become innovative in their effort to address the causes and reduce the effects of different environment problems. I wasn't going to have this slide today, but yesterday I was looking at the news, and when I switched to BBC, I saw this quote by Prince William saying, "We need some of the world's greatest brains and minds fixed on trying to repair this planet." And that's what we need for the environment. There's no greater legacy that we can leave for the future generation than protecting the mother nature, the earth, via protecting the environment. And us as Rotarians, with our unique way of tackling problems, which we have done before, with even problems where no one expected that they could be solved, we can use the same efforts, we can use the same connections to solve problems for the environment, to bring the right minds together and fix them in thinking of this planet. A good example is the polio eradication program, which even someone who doesn't know anything about Rotary, but when they hear polio, they will tell you Rotary. And we can't say that we succeeded as Rotarians just because via Rotary International, via Rotary districts, via clubs, via individual Rotarians, we somehow supported the availability of vaccines. No, but we can say that the success was behind the fact that Rotarians were able to talk to the right people, to give the right support, and to do the right thing at the right time. In my thinking, and I am pledging for this, if we do this with the environment, key stakeholders in this world, including governments, will listen to us and will work with us to make a better place in terms of the environment, so that in our totality, we can serve the environment of this earth. And it is also through platforms like this WASH Symposium and many other Rotary Symposium that are conducted that we can speak to the world about the environment. So it is my hope that this will not be my first time I'm having a chance to encourage people and talk regarding environment for the Rotary. So we know as Rotarians, we usually come up with projects as a way to tackle issues, concepts which become projects. We look for connections and try to influence a policy and strategies in order to obtain impact. So we can do the same, or we should do the same with environmental issues, give the same effort we put for other areas of focus and try to relate with other important aspects like WASH in the projects that we are developing, sort of trying to have multi-projects touching different focus areas with the aim of achieving multi-disciplinary outputs at the end of the day. So since we know what we're supposed to do, what can we do as Rotarians? What can we do in our clubs? What can we do within our districts? I will just start by giving an example of what I was thinking when I was trying to prepare this presentation. So we can consider conservation of water resources and water sources, protecting them. These are the areas where they become invaded because they are viable and have many more resources. Where there is water, you find forests. Where there is water, people can take livestock for drinking and feeding. So most of the times they become highly affected. And at the end of the day, we lose water. And when we lose water, issues of water scarcity now becomes quite critical. And most of the WASH problems and also issues of infectious diseases and poverty are actually a result of such issues. So conservation of water resources, for example, if we have projects around those areas, we could solve most of the problems that along the lines of WASH and infectious disease as the focus areas of Rotary, we could be achieving some of the goals that we set, but also looked within our area. Tanzania is found along the coastline, and the coastline of Tanzania is about 1,424 kilometers. And to a bigger extent, we have mangrove coastal forests dominating most of this coastline, but most of them are also being affected. And in the end, they affect the environment. So we could have such projects and save the mangroves. In the manner we will save the environment, but also when we save the mangroves, we conserve, for example, the nursery and feeding grounds within the mangrove areas, and that will enhance fisheries and support economic and community development at the same time. So these are some of the examples. One problem, one solution, but could touch several areas of focus within the Rotary. I was also thinking, for example, conservation of indigenous plants, which will protect the water sources, will protect the forest, but also will stimulate economies. And all these together will touch different areas of focus of Rotary. And conservation of key, for example, fishery resources like the mangroves, the coral reefs, will also support the economic and community livelihood, but also support maternal and child health by increasing availability of fish, protein-based food, tackling the problems of malnutrition, and saving maternal and child care within our communities, which in some areas are taken as not a greater challenge, but there are some areas that small difference would save a family line. And just looking at the thinking of what can be done in terms of the environment from where I'm sitting, from the region where I live, I found out that through empowering economies of communities by various projects, as I've mentioned, we also contribute now to addressing on a broader perspective issues of water, sanitation and hygiene, issues of literacy, because now people will have additional income through either fisheries or any other economic activities related to environment conservation. And also it helps in solving conflicts, especially conflicts that originate from scarcity of resources. So for example, we have had issues where farmers and livestock go into serious conflicts, which encourage the government to take even greater steps in solving those problems. So by protecting the environment, we will save such problems, and on a broader perspective, we achieve the totality of the goals of Rotary. So then I said, there are a lot of things that we can do for the environment, for WASH as Rotarians. But I know there are Rotarians who want to do something for the environment, but they're not sure what to do. They're not sure what they will do, if it will have an impact or not. They're not sure what they will do, if it will be accepted by communities or not. And usually this is part of the dilemma. And sometimes we see the problems are too bigger beyond ourselves. At the same time, the confusion usually comes because as Rotarians, we are very solution driven. We just want to see change. We want results. We want things happening. If we know there's a village that doesn't have water, a village or a school that doesn't have sufficient latrines, we could work together, bring them fresh water, bring them clean water, bring them latrines. We know how we do it, and we do it well. We have, in our totality, brought clean water to many schools, for example, in our regions. So there are a lot of things that we can do, but we need to overcome the issues of dilemma, particularly when it comes to complex or bigger problems. And when we come to the environment, there are indeed complex challenges. Speaking of climate change itself, it's quite a complex challenge and obviously requires a complex solution. But one way that we tackle, and different Rotarians within our clubs and districts, we tackle it, is by breaking down problems into smaller pieces. And then through that, we can find out that when we look at our regions and we see those complex problems and we break them down in smaller pieces, we can find everyone have something that they can do. And then in our togetherness, we will have a huge and a greater impact as Rotarians. We have a lot of support from the Rotary Foundation, from a lot of other partners at which Rotary International engage with, Rotary districts engage with, and our very own clubs do engage. So before I move into the next direction, I want us to, as we live today, when you think or you remember the talk that we had today, I am calling us in our totality to speak for the environment, to come together and do bigger thing as Rotarians for the environment so that we can leave our legacy within this world. I would also like to talk about now the action group within Rotary that can support us to undergo service projects in regard to environmental projects. And this is the Environment Sustainability Rotarian Action Group, ESRAG, which some of you may be aware of it. Some of you may not or may not be aware to the detail. ESRAG targets to empower members of Rotary family worldwide to take actions to sustain our environment, particularly to stabilize our climate. It provides an organizing point and informational resources where now clubs and communities can learn about sustainable practices and the global humanitarian crisis of climate change and find a way to participate in solving these problems. Therefore, members of ESRAG can help your Rotary Club, your district, to plan environmental projects and also to publicize your efforts that you have or you will undertake towards those projects. It has 6 main areas of focus, and these include biodiversity, food systems, climate, sustainable living, pollution, and circular economy. These are the key areas of focus that ESRAG work with. And its mode of operation is that it identifies environmental leaders within the Rotary world. The Rotary world is quite broad. We've said that we are in 200+ countries spread around the world, from Latin America to Sub-Sahara, to Europe, to North America, to Asia. You will find Rotary clubs, Rotary districts found. So ESRAG identify environmental leaders from the Rotary world and work with them as well as assist them in initiating environmental service projects that are meaningful to them. And also, where they can, they help and acknowledge and publicize their awesome work. It is very important for communities, even within the Rotary world, within our regions, to identify service projects that are meaningful to us, meaningful to our communities, so that we are able actually to implement them and await to see the output or the fruits of those projects. And most important, to own the projects and create sustainability of those projects over due time. But you can also do something either for ESRAG or be part of ESRAG. We all have skills that we can offer ESRAG. Whether you're a leader, you're passionate about the environment, or you want to contribute as a part-time volunteer, there will always be something that you can work with or you can help ESRAG. There are some places that they have highlighted that they could accept help, including you can become an active member within the regional chapters. You can provide support for the website. You can work with the project teams that are occurring within your region, but also you can contribute to their newsletter. Many of us, we do projects and we don't publicize them. So those could be a content to the SRAG newsletter, and they could empower and educate other members of the Rotary wherever they are. So you can either submit an article for the newsletter, you can share a photo, a brilliant photo. You can serve also as an editor for the newsletter, or you can volunteer as a member of the editorial board. SRAG has a very robust website. Those who have not visited, kindly visit, encourage your friends to visit, members of your club to visit, and read some of their guidelines, their activities, and find a way that you can engage with them. If we all engage with the environment, we all speak volume for the environment. But mostly important, and which resonates to all of us as Rotarians, it's always challenging and yet exciting to have new members. We all know about recruiting members. So you can also help SRAG to recruit members from the Rotary community. But also you can help lead or participate in the SRAG activities. The other way, you can also visit them in their social media. They are found on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. You can tag them, you can hashtag, you can share any content that is relevant and help them also to make noise about the environment. Now, if you allow me, I would like to speak a little bit about environmental-based projects that are happening within my district and also that we have done within my club. As I said, my club is within the District 9211, which includes the countries of Tanzania and Uganda. We have about 2,000 plus Rotarians with 50 plus clubs in the district. And since 2017, we were actively engaged in the Mission Green project. We had a number of initiatives through this project with the strategic plan to engage in our totality so that we can have a volume impact in terms of the environment. So the key initiatives for our Mission Green project were three. The first one was to promote the use of improved cooking stoves initiative. And the reason for this was because 88% of the total energy consumption in East Africa is in form of firewood and charcoal for cooking. And this extensively leads to deforestation, which now is a big problem in terms of the environment. So the priority was try to reduce the pressure on the forest by promoting the use of improved cooking stoves. And second, as we were promoting the use of cooking stoves, it was planting initiative, tree planting initiative. We had a campaign to plant 5 million trees a year over the period of 5 years, 217 to 222 within our district, and to make 20 million trees, around 20 million trees within the period of 5 years. And last but not least in terms of importance is to initiate partnership with right institutions and organizations specifically for tackling the Mission Green project. So a lot of partnerships were initiated and established with government and non-government organizations that we have been working together with from 2017, and we hope to reach 22 next year, and we'll be able to do a thorough monitoring in terms of what we have achieved in our togetherness. So as I was trying to put this presentation, I said, maybe we should find a way also for our incoming district governor to have a wash-related project of this magnitude within our region, and then we can see how we can contribute in solving the problems of water, sanitation, and hygiene. And now, zooming in into my own club, the Rotary Club of Dar es Salaam, Mlimani, my very dear club, through which I've learned a lot of things about being a Rotarian. And I've picked some of the pictures, and if you take note of these pictures, it's like we say we are always in the nature, we are always in the forest, we always look for reasons to go and do our swallowships outside of the city, outside of the normal meeting place. It's very beautiful, and I would like to welcome all of you. By any chance, when you come to Tanzania, you can reach us and fellowship with us in one of these areas. It's a small club of about 15 active members, and we were actually inducted in 2016, June. So also, within our baby steps, we have, of course, embarked a number of projects, but also we managed to have 2 projects that are environment-based. The first one, we embarked on a project of mangrove restoration. So we have been restoring mangroves along the coast of Dar es Salaam. We started in 2009, where we restored 1,400, we planted 1,400 seedlings. And then in 2020, we planted 2,200 seedlings. And this year, the current president target is to complete planting 4,000 seedlings. And again, as with the way Rotary does its things, even within our club, we do this in partnership with other organizations, including the Tanzania Forest Services. Our second environment-based project, which we have started it this year, is indigenous trees restoration. We aim to restore the coastal forests in Dar es Salaam with their indigenous trees. We identified the problem that most of the tree restoration programs do not consider the fact of planting back the indigenous plants. So over time, the ecologies do change, and that comes along also with unsustainable environmental protection, including water availability, water restoration, and so forth. So we decided to tackle on planting indigenous trees. This year, we planted 4,000 trees of the native hardwood plants. In Swahili, we call them Congo and Mninga. And again, we did this in partnership with other organizations, including the leading Tanzania Forest Services. We have been doing this also with local communities. For the mangrove, we work on a close basis with the women group, and for the indigenous trees, we also work with another local community occurring or living within the Kisarawe forest where we planted. So again, because I'm a project director in my club, we have just inducted our new president. I will make sure I present to him the next project to also be around WASH. Having said that, again, let me thank you, the organizers, for inviting me to speak to you all. Thank you all for listening. Asante sana. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank
you so much, Dr. Kaaya. And at this time, we will take a few questions. If there are any, post them in the chat. If there are any in person, I think maybe the main room has a microphone. You can post them in the chat or raise your hand if you're online. And I'm going to be posting into the chat Dr. Kaaya's contact information for anyone to follow up. So our first question from Nancy Gilbert from the Rotary E-Club of Wash. How did they select the variety of trees planted? Dr. Kaaya?
Okay, thank you very much, Nancy, for your questions. The 2 species that we planted are indigenous to the Kisarawe Forest Reserve. It is only that because they provide hardwood, one of the most expensive timber found along this area. They have been depleted over time, but they are indigenous to the region. So that was the main choice based on them being indigenous within that region. I know there are other indigenous plants that we could have planted because there are several species, but these two are highly endangered, we can say, and that was the drive to choose them, but also they are of high economic viability. Thank you.
Okay, we have from Samantha. She says she's a returned Peace Corps volunteer from Tanzania and now a Rotarian. Seeing this wonderful presentation from Dr. Kaaya is making me think about a potential link between her Rotary Club and Peace Corps in Tanzania. Would this be a good partnership? She would be happy to make the connection with the Peace Corps team in Tanzania and Dr. Kaaya.
Surely, I think it will be a good connection, and I will appreciate you connecting us. Thank you.
Great. And from Rebecca Wheeler at American Waterworks Association, Dr. Kaaya, how do you see the importance of women's role in your program in your country? Maybe you could talk a little bit about the African Women in Science program that you're a part of.
Yeah, thank you, Rebecca, for your question, which is quite interesting and key, as I've been involved a lot in empowering women along around our region, mostly, of course, women in science, but again, through different groups where women are ready to work together or in groups. The role is quite vital because we have a saying that if you enable a woman, you enable a family. And that is a very strong line that I usually move in. But most additional other things include that the commitment that we find in women that we work with. For example, the women we restore mangroves with, they take leadership. You talk to them, you share with them ideas, they tell you what they want and they tell you what they want you to do, and then they will do. For example, for the mangrove restoration, they said they need to restore the forest because they want to do beekeeping and sustain their families. So through linking with different organizations, we managed to support them in their beekeeping project. They also managed to support us in making sure they collect the seedlings, and when we plant the mangroves, they take lead and they monitor the growth of those mangroves, and most important, they monitor pollution-related activities within the areas. So most women have been very focused when you work with them. The challenge is we have not been given the opportunity to take that lead, to take that role. And that is what we are doing through other programs. For example, the African Women in Science program, which is a program where we work to empower young female scientists within the Great Lakes region to become leaders of the future in planning, protecting, and also developing the water resources around them, and of course, other resources. So the empowering component is very crucial for women from this area. And we say it's women to empower other women. Thank you.
Okay, thank you again so much, Dr. Kaaya, for being here today, for your wonderful presentation, and for highlighting how WASH relates to Rotary's newest area of focus, the environment.
Can we ask one question from here, Heidi?
Okay, go ahead.
Does anybody have any questions?
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Laurie Bowman and I'm from the Denver University Hills Rotary Club. Thank you for the fabulous presentation. I can easily envision the relationship between healthy forests and cooking stoves. So I'm curious if you can add any more information on the reference in your presentation to cooking stove initiatives.
I didn't hear very well. Maybe Heidi, can you?
Yes, so she was asking about the cook stove initiative, and if you could talk a little bit more about that and how that helps the environment. I think that's what I heard.
Okay. As I have said, the background to investing in cooking stove initiative is based on the use of charcoal and firewood for cooking. 88% of persons within the East Africa area, they use direct firewood or charcoal, which is again like direct timber for cooking. And that puts pressure on the forests. And it doesn't matter how much we found out you do afforestation, if you do not help to decline the rate at which people harvest the plants, the trees, then it's like chasing a faster moving vehicle, because the other vehicle is moving faster than the way you are moving. And taking into consideration that plants take time to grow, particularly the indigenous plants. So as we said, we will do a double action. We'll plant the trees as much as we can so that the afforestation picks up, but also we will slow down the cutting down of trees. But how do you slow down cutting down of trees if people do not have an alternative for cooking? They need fuel for cooking, and what they use is charcoal and firewood. So encouraging people to use improved cooking stoves will mean less use of firewood and charcoal and less harvesting of forests, and that will save the plants. I hope I've been elaborative enough.
Thank you so much. And for those of you that would like to follow up with Dr. Kaaya, I've posted into the chat. We'll also make sure that our in-person participants get Dr. Kaaya's contact information. So thank you again. And we are going to move on. We're running a little bit behind. So we're going to move into our breakout sessions